Welcome back, everyone. This is Dirch, and I have another farming guide for you with barrels. This one I'm going over the SMGs. So, to start off, let's go over the actual barrel types. So, Maliwan barrels here. Maliwan barrels? Okay. This is what they look like. They gave you increased elemental effect damage and chance. And increase your accuracy. Your Hyperion barrels. Let's find our Hyperion barrel here. This is the Hyperion barrel. Increases your accuracy and reduces your damage and magazine size. Not a big fan of that. SMGs, as long as you ADS, their accuracy is kind of high enough to hit. And the only ones that you should be hip firing are Hyperion, because the rest are kind of shit to hip fire, so you don't really need that accuracy bonus. And to reduce damage and magazine size, that's kind of a hard hit. Bandit is your next one. Now, Bandit increases your weapon damage and reduces your accuracy. I actually like these quite a bit, because again, if you ADS, you have good enough damage to hit, good enough accuracy to hit, and this is the only barrel that improves damage. Jacobs and Torg typically do this, but neither one makes SMGs. Next you have your Tedior. These ones increase reload speed and accuracy, but reduce damage. Most SMGs reload fairly quickly. And you see this is a Bandit here with 3.2, now that is with a Tedior barrel reduced, but they have fairly decent mag sizes and reload anyways to start with. And then you have your Dahl, which is this, which gives you recoil reduction, and that's it. So the SMG barrels are a lot less exciting than the snipers and shotguns, in my opinion. But we're going to go through these anyways, because we might still get some decent results by looking at them. So, let's start with our Bandit ones here. Bandit SMGs are actually my favorite of all Bandit weapons in the Borderlands 2, and probably TPS for Scav as well. They just work really well. SMGs are somewhat bullet hoses, so I don't mind the big mag kind of makes a lot of sense here. And they just work really well. So the matching barrel here, I should also say matching barrels give you a damage bonus as always. So compared to a Maliwan, because a Maliwan doesn't affect damage in any way, shape, or form, you see you get another 12,000 damage per shot, which is pretty solid. You lose 2 accuracy. You can see there the Maliwan, the extra dot damage and chance. Which, you know, it's something, but, you know, dots in this game are not the best. Compared to the Hyperion here, down to 197 damage, and you lose a couple in the mag. That's a fairly big drop-off per shot. You're looking at over 20,000 per shot there, so that's a bit tough to handle. The Dahl, same as the Maliwan damage at 207. How does the Dahl have less accuracy? That is weird. Yeah, so definitely don't like the Dahl there. And the Tedior, I don't think that reload difference is enough to make it worth it, losing that damage. Especially because you go down, so there you're about 18,000. So Bandit, by far and away, it's the Bandit barrel. I don't think any of the other ones are really worthwhile. Maybe the Maliwan barrel is the second best, but you're really going to be looking at that Bandit matching barrel. And as you can see here, the accuracy doesn't really matter. I can keep critting him. I don't know why I did reload there. I will hip fire it to kind of see there. So, you know, that's what you're going to get from a hip fire. So let's go to the Hyperion barrel. The hipfire is not even that much better. And once again, the accuracy you're not going to really notice. You know, the doll, you might notice a little bit with that recoil being less. It does have less of a sway. I'm not even touching it here. But I don't think that's quite worth it for the lower damage or anything. So let's go with the doll hipfire here. That one's slightly better, but I don't think it's good enough to make a difference. Like I said, on SMGs for the most part, you should be aiming down sight. And I guess I will take the Maliwan one for a spin here. You can see there. So you will be getting the bigger dots on this. Hip firing, it's about the same. So the increased accuracy is a bit of a waste on these. So I'm going to stick with, by far the best would be the matching barrel on the Bandit. None of the other ones really make up for what they're doing. Accuracy is not a big deal. So let's move on to our next brand. So Dahl SMGs are known for their lower recoil and burst fire, as you can see here. Stays on target very well. And I'm not a big fan of these personally, but a lot of people are, so I guess that's irrelevant. Now the matching Dahl barrel, you have 205,000 for the damage here, 91 accuracy, 7.1 fire rate, 2.3 reload, 41 in the mag. So once again, fairly quick reload, decent sized magazine. Let's go down and compare. So first I'll look at it compared to Maliwan. Since Maliwan doesn't affect damage at all, you can see that matching damage bonus there is almost 10,000. Accuracy there again, it's not going to matter. The dot chance is kind of cool, but it's not enough to make up for the difference in the damage. Even though that dot is significant there, I mean, it's 20,000 more, and the damage isn't that big. But the problem is when you crit, you start to see the difference in that damage, and dots aren't affected by crits. So comparing it to the Hyperion here, again, you get significantly less damage there, down to 185. The accuracy, I just fired that Dahl. You saw how accurate that was. I don't think that's going to be a big deal, but we'll hit fire it to see. The Bandit here, no real reason to use that. The damage increase from the Bandit barrel isn't enough to make up for the matching barrel bonus, and you have less accuracy. It's just straight down less. The TDR here, again, 0.2 on the reload, it's not enough to matter. Damage is down too far. So if there's a secondary barrel you're going to go for here, it's probably going to be the Maliwan over the Bandit. Because of you have 6,000 less damage, but the dots there might be enough to make up for it. But let's kind of shoot all these. So you already saw me shooting this. You can see, stays on target. Your first shot here is going to be doing 323k. So what are we on there? Our Bandit, 316k. Which one is this? TDR, 296, so you can see is less. Hyperion, 291. None of these are really worth that much. So there's our most accurate one hip firing. The Dahl actually, because you have less recoil, it's actually better hip firing than the Hyperion. But none of these have terrible recoil. You know, they're still not the best to hip fire. And let's switch to the Maliwan here. So let's look at this dot damage. 42. Let's go with the doll barrel. Wait for it till he goes off. Come on. 36. Yeah, so the dot's not that big of a difference. So yeah, this one definitely, again, matching barrel is going to be ideal with the doll. The Molly one would probably be the secondary one to go for. So moving on to the next brand. So Hyperion SMGs are known for the reverse recoil, and that's the big selling point on them. But the barrel does reduce the mag and the damage. So this one, I think we're going to have a little more interesting results than just the typical matching barrel. Now, your Hyperion matching barrel here is 194,000 on the damage, 96 on the accuracy, 8.7 fire rate, which is a solid fire rate, 2.1 on reload, and 35 on the mag. So comparing these to the Bandit and Doll, significantly less base damage, better fire rate, way better accuracy, a lot better reload, but much smaller mag. And this one, again, smaller mag, better reload, fire rate, and accuracy, but damage is down a bit as well. So comparing this to other ones, looking at the Bandit here, you do have almost, well, it's about 5.4 thousand more damage per shot. And 2 more in the mag, which is significant, especially if you have magazine increase bonuses. That could multiply into more bonus. The reduced accuracy here, again, if you're going to ADS or even hip firing with them, I don't know if it's going to make a huge difference. But it might make a difference getting to max accuracy faster. On the Doll, you have less damage, less accuracy, 2 more in the mag. But since the Doll helps recoil and Hyperion has reverse recoil, I don't think this is going to be a good thing. The Molly one here, this one might be better than the matching barrel too, because you have barely less damage here. It's 1,070 less damage, but the dots more than make up for it. Now, you're not going to dot on every shot, of course, but still, the difference in dot damage is way more than the difference in bullet damage, even with critting, and 2 more in the mag is significant. When you are, oops, didn't mean to do that, comparing to a Tedior, where is my, there we go. I don't think this is going to be very great. Let me actually compare here. Again, 0.2 in the reload speed is not really noticeable. 2 extra in the mag is cool, but your damage is even further down. So I think Tedior is going to be bottom of the barrel here. So on these, going to be a little different. I'm going to shoot to max accuracy. So there, I don't know if that 28 was quite, yeah, about there. So about 7 shots to get to max accuracy. Now on the Bandit, that's about 10 or 11. So that's something to consider. On your Doll, well, actually the recoil, the way it works on this is pretty good. Well, maybe not that great. The Maliwan, about 10 there too. So the Hyperion does get to max accuracy quicker, but is it worth the less damage? Now you see once you get on there, you are nailing it. Let's look at what the crit is, 306. So on the Bandit here, whoa, that was just me being off. So it takes longer, but you are doing 315 per shot, and this is without any skills or anything compared to the 306. I think that's going to matter. The Maliwan here, so that got on there pretty close. The damage is right there, but the dots are way better. The Hyperion, the Doll, the problem is that Doll, you get that Doll sway, so even when you're in max accuracy, you get that sway. So definitely don't like the doll. And the TDR I'm not even going to shoot because its stats are just so bad. So on the Hyperion, you can kind of go three ways here with either a bandit, Hyperion, because you are going to get to accuracy faster there. So those extra few shots on target might make up for the lost damage, or a Maliwan. So Hyperion SMGs, some people hate them because they can't get used to that sway, but I'm fine with those few missed shots and then zone in and just crit, because to me, the few missed shots damage are way made up for by being able to consistently crit so well, especially hip fire critting. So these are some of my favorite SMGs, and the fire rate's really good, which makes them great for DPS. And it's cool because you have 3 barrels here that are all pretty good. Now, my personal favorite is the bandit one because in practice, this one has put out the best damage for me and killed the fastest. This is one of my absolute favorite non-red text SMGs right here. This thing fucking kills, and I adore it. So those are Hyperion. Moving on to the next brand. The last brand of SMGs are going to be our TDRs. TDRs have the worst stats, but you can chuck them for damage. And that's really what you want to use these for. If you're going to be using these to shoot, you might as well use another SMG. Not that you can't kill some trash mobs by shooting them, but generally you want to save these for your big bosses or badass enemies because they can put out a lot of damage really fast. Compared to other SMGs, you see they do have a good fire rate and great reload speed, but their damage is on the lacking side, and so is their magazine size. Compared to Hyperion, they, again, lower on all of those. So DPS-wise, these are on the low side, but by chucking them, they are the highest, although you go through a lot of ammo. Now, to compare these to the other variants, the Bandit one is probably the closest one to compete here. You have slightly more damage, but a lower reload speed. And this is a bit complicated here, because the faster you can chuck them, if you're really good enough on the keyboard or the controller to chuck them at maximum reload speed, shoot, chuck, you're probably going to get a little more DPS out of that TDR. So if you're going for like time trial kills and all that stuff, you'd be better off with the TDR. But honestly, if you're doing that, you're going to be using the Baby Maker or the Avenger or the Gunnerang, not just a regular one of these or even a Plasma Caster. So the Bandit one, you're going to get more damage out of a chuck. And if you just kind of using these to fight, there goes an enemy, there goes an enemy, taking care of one enemy at a time, that 1.5 is going to be plenty fast now. So let's look at these two. That's one bullet. So 4.7, 4.8. So the Bandit does more damage by a little bit per chuck, but you can't chuck it quite as fast. So both of these are going to be pretty close to each other, depending on your use case. Now the rest of them, you can see lower reload, lower damage, lower reload, lower damage, better dot, better accuracy, not quite enough. Or over here, way lower damage, lower reload, and lower mag. That's definitely out. So you have two viable, I don't want to say viable, you have two top choices here. And again, depending on your use case, it's going to vary. Now, one thing to also consider when you're buffing these, because this has bigger damage to start with, it will get more damage out of gun buffs, which will make it do more. And also, the reload speed difference of 0.4 will shrink with reload buffs because the higher number is going to get more out of that percentage than the lower number. So once again, you will get a little bit more out of this. with a lot of buffs. So the bandit one I think will come out on top after you have skills and relics and gear and all that stuff on top. This will get more out of all that than the Tediore one will. So if they're already close, that might edge this out for the win. And yeah, that's really all there is to do with the Tediores. So to wrap up here, next up is Maliwan. Now, Maliwan SMGs are a bit odd because they are the only Maliwan guns that lack splash damage. But they do have increased dot and increased elemental effect chance dot damage, I should say, which does help them out quite a bit. I wish they would have had splash, but that's neither here nor there. So a Maliwan barreled Maliwan SMG you see here at 199,000. Solid accuracy at 93. Really good fire rate at 8.0. I think it's the third best. The reload speed is solid. The magazine size is a bit on the low side. But you see the dot damage there is almost as much as a hit. And that's quite a bit more than the other dots we saw. So to compare them to bandits, you have less damage, but you have better accuracy, fire rate, reload, less mag. But that damage is 50,000 higher. That's significant. It really is. Compared to the doll, you see the same thing. I'll go down to a Hyperion Maliwan barrel because I saved that. It's still about 30,000 higher, and it's got a little higher base damage. So between the higher dot damage on these, which actually does help, and the really solid stats across the board, they are pretty good. They are a little wild from the hip, but not too much worse than other SMGs, and when you ADS, they are pretty spot on, as you can see there. So, I gotta stop saying that so often, as I just did again. Comparing them to other barrels. Compared to a Hyperion, you are better than every way, shape, or form. Compared to a bandit barrel, once again, still better in damage and every stat. Same thing here with a doll. And same with, actually, a Tediore will beat it barely on reload by 0.2, but everything else is quite a bit lower. Now, another thing to note with its dot chance is because you have a much higher number here, 18.7 compared to most of these at 10, since it's bigger, you get a bigger boost from things that will boost dot chance. So I'm going to go to Flickr. Oh, my profile reset. I had a computer boost. And the legendary Siren. Then I'll throw out a gun here. And you see this, it's up to 29% from 18. Now the 10 goes up to 16, which is still below what that is normally. So that's a big boost at 29% there. That's very, very significant. So that is Maliwan SMGs. I'm going to move on to Tediore, the last brand. The best out of the best. For Tediore, I'm going to go with the Bandit Barrel. For Bandit barrel matching. Doll, you have your Doll barrel. Hyperion, they're all close, but I think the Bandit Barrel comes out on top. And for Maliwan, you are going to go with your Maliwan Barrel. So, as kind of some secondary ones, Hyperion's got some really good options that are really damn close with both the Hyperion and Maliwan Barrel, but I think the Bandit just edges them out a little bit. And the Tediore, obviously, a Tediore barrel, really close to a Bandit barrel. On the other ones, there's a lot bigger of a drop-off, but the next best barrel in a lot of these was the Maliwan barrel. So Dahl barrels, TDR barrels, and Hyperion barrels, if they're not matching, they're pretty terrible. It's usually the Molly one or the Bandit barrel as a second choice if you are farming for these and you don't have a matching barrel. So let me know what you guys think. What are your favorite SMGs? And I will talk to you all later. Bye.